Step back, Jay. Harden. Bullseye.
Sixers looking very focused in the second half. Maxey looking for more. He's got it!
Daniel House, little up and under on the lob, and then flies in with the emphatic one-hand jam.
Niang looking for more from outside. Bang, bang, George Niang!
Joel, the process heavy.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Pick Swap Media YouTube channel. My name is Sean Barnard, and we are here in the in-draft season now, starting to kick things off with all the breakdowns. I got my guy Ryan Coyle with me to talk, and today we are going to bring up a guy that I believe has gone a little underrated based on the buzz around all these other guys. I just think Scoot Henderson has gotten a little forgotten. So before we dive fully into it, Ryan, how we doing?
Pretty good. Like you're saying, exciting time of year with the draft. Scoot Henderson. It's kind of weird with the top two players being non-college guys, where I feel like mainstream basketball followers might not be as familiar with them, with Scoot being in the G League and Wembanyama being an overseas player, because they're not people that you're watching every night. Like Brandon Miller was a guy that was on national TV, two times a week, and people were able to really see him up close. It's not many people are tuning into G League games. You're more so just watching like highlights and stuff. So with the professional evaluators and front offices, obviously they've had chances to see these guys up close and in person more than us. So maybe internally there are some more fans of Scoot than the national media, just because of the access and the limits, I think, compared to what we've been able to see of Brandon Miller. But I don't think Scoot Henderson should be disregarded. Like you said, that he might be right now. Brandon Miller, he's been my guy since the beginning of the season, so I'll continue to ride that train. But I do still think Scoot's an excellent prospect, and some of the names that have been thrown around with him certainly make you raise an eyebrow as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I do think that's kind of where I'm coming from. Is I feel the consensus has shifted to Brandon Miller being that number 2 guy, and I guess the draft really starts at number 2, as Wembanyama is the clear-cut number 1, has been for several years now. So we're looking at where that number 2 pick, I do think it plays in Brandon Miller's favor that he was a college guy, that guys did have more of a chance to watch it. And just naturally, when we look at the path to the NBA nowadays, there's just so many different routes. Like you look at the Thompson twins who played at Overtime Elite. It's like I've done as much as I can watching film on them and figuring it out, but I feel like I'm just watching highlights and I'm just being like, who were these guys truly playing against? And they sure have the look and feel of an NBA player, but do I fully buy into it that way? And the G League Ignite is more of an ironed out path than that for sure. A little bit of a step ahead in Overtime Elite as far as a level of competition and just direct line. These are guys that have played in the NBA or on that NBA path and just across the G League. So maybe a touch below, all those things. So I do think the Ignite is fair talent. And Scoot, I think, has become kind of the forgotten guy. It felt like last year that when I was watching the G League Ignite film of the guys, the Jaden Hardys, the Marjon Beauchamp, all the people from that, Scoot Henderson popped off the page for me then. And I could not wait to break down this guy. I do think he had somewhat of a disappointing year by his standards. I think there was a little bit of a coasting. I didn't see these strides forward that I hoped, but I still think he's a can't miss prospect and a guy that any team should be happy. If you get him with the 3rd pick, I do feel it's a steal. And to me, he is the number 2 guy in this draft as of now, as we sit 20 some odd days out.
I also think Brandon Miller is benefiting from the number 2 overall pick being to the Hornets, with them already having a ball dominant guard in LaMelo. And with, it seems like Lillard actually might finally be willing to get out of Portland. I feel like that would just be an easy transition with Henderson potentially going to the Blazers there. And also, I know that the G League Ignite and that Overtime Elite, they're still in the infant stages of those leagues. It seems like that those programs are just really getting started. But we haven't seen, a superstar or like a super good player really emerge from that yet. If I'm not mistaken, I mean, Kuminga was like the
Jalen Green's probably the best.
Yeah.
He was a guy who number 2 pick, but he's still very young. And as you mentioned, it's because it's in the infant stages, but my bad.
Yeah. No problem. That was a name that did escape me with that. But I was going to say, like, Kuminga was like the first big name, I think, going over there. And he really hasn't been able to fully let loose. I think he's shown some flashes, but he's also only, I think I saw he's going to be, at the time of next season, going to be only like 3 months older than the Thompson twins. And Kuminga's going into year 3 or 4 now in the NBA, so it's pretty wild. But I don't know if that's kind of scaring off some teams with potentially, all right, what are we really getting out of these guys coming from these non-college or non-overseas? Something to watch. But like you were saying, this year I feel like there was a legitimate discussion. It seemed like it was always Wembanyama at 1, but I feel like there was at that one point at like the beginning of the year, there was a legitimate discussion where some people were like, I think I might like Scoot actually better. But I don't think he took that next level. But he also was like battling injuries, I believe, throughout the season.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't take that next level in the shooting. I think that's what people were really looking for. I'm pretty sure I saw he only shot 17% from 3 in his first year in the G League. And I think this year he only shot like 27. So if you're going to be a ball dominant guard in today's NBA, you have to be able to shoot it better than that. It could be scaring some teams away. But certainly an athletic freak, and he does impact the game in multiple ways. I think he averaged, it was like 17, 6, and 5 this year. It's not just a guy who's going out there chucking up shots. He's able to impact the game in multiple ways. And his body, like if you ever see those pictures of him, like after like an and one or something, and he's flexing, like this dude's yoked up. He looks like he's like an NFL running back. He should be able to set the tone physically in the NBA from day one.
Yeah, he's 6'2", got a 6'9" wingspan. As far as the numbers, and some of these get messed up in the G League because they have the showcase for regular season, all this stuff. I believe these are the combined numbers. I apologize if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure these are the combined numbers. I forgot to note exactly where. But I have him averaging 18 points per game, 5.1 rebounds, 6.7 assists, 1.2 steals, shot 44.9% from the field on 15 attempts, and 33.8% from 3 on 2.7 attempts. Those attempts I don't love. He's going to need to get up more perimeter shots for sure, especially in today's NBA. I feel like I'm saying that for just about every player and the way the league's trending and everything that points toward that. But one of the things that I do really like about Scooty, you kind of touched on, is it's that mentality. He's a pit bull. He's a bulldog. He's got that like get downhill, want to attack. He's a grinder. He's not intimidated. Even when he played against Wemby in those matchups, the exhibitions there, like yes, Wembanyama mostly got the better of him, but Scoot was not afraid to attack at him and go at this guy. And I like that. Even though like Wemby had some like highlight worthy blocks on him, I was still excited to see it from Scoot's perspective that he is still attacking these guys and going at him. And that's one of the biggest things that I really like about him is he's going to have that mentality from day one. As far as a player comp, I've seen a lot thrown around from like the Russell Westbrook, the Derrick Rose. Personally, what jumps out to me, I would call him a rich man's Colin Sexton. And that's not, I mean, Sexton has had his ups and downs so far in the NBA. I think situationally he hasn't ended up in the best, but I think Scoot's a better version of him, and they have that same like mentality and just aggressiveness in their play, which I frankly love.
Yeah, for sure. That is a kind of interesting name that I have seen the Derrick Rose and the Russell Westbrook kind of comps. I think right now it's probably more of a Westbrook just because of his limitations on the outside, but also like Russell Westbrook over these past few years has gotten slandered, but let's not forget this man has averaged a triple-double in his career
MVP.
multiple times, MVP. Like, dude was legit for a long, long time. And still, even like this year in the back half of the season, he still showed that he can play. If you're getting, when we were talking about Wembanyama, like what's a successful career from him? If you're picking at number 2 or 3 and you're taking Scoot Henderson and you're getting Russell Westbrook's career, I think, 100 or 30 out of 30 NBA teams are signing up for that without a blink of an eye. I mean, that's a ridiculous career, a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like you usually get, I think I saw like since 2000 on, or since whenever the NBA merger was full, like the average is like 2 Hall of Famers a class or something. All right. So we're looking at potentially one of the greatest prospects ever in Wembanyama. You would think he leads to an NBA Hall of Fame career. And then Scoot Henderson, if you're Russell Westbrook, that's another MVP or Hall of Famer right there. So I think if you're going to throw out those comps for these guys, that's some large billing to live up to. And we know what path Derrick Rose was on before his injuries as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. And yeah, I pulled up some highlights here that we're going to look at next to him. There he is attacking Wemby and hits a little step back 3 on him. So that's one of the things that has jumped out watching him is he's not afraid of the moment. And like Russell Westbrook, I think Russ, when he joined the Clippers, like we saw the positive signs of him. And for the Clippers specifically, I think he stood out because he is a guy that shows up every single night. He competes. He's not going to miss time. And for the Clippers who've been built around Kawhi and Paul George, that's super appealing. Scoot brings that same kind of principle to me, that he's a gamer, he's there, he's competing. And yeah, I really like that. A couple of the other kind of pros that I have in his game, The athleticism stands out as well. Like, he looks like a football player at times. He's aggressive. He gets downhill. He's strong. He's got a good frame. His first step is probably going to be his distinguishing NBA skill, the way he can just blow past a guy and create. He's also a grab and go guy. As we mentioned with Wembanyama, that's becoming the trend where guys kind of get the rebound and go. Scoot does that obviously in a different way, but he's a guy that has 5.1 rebounds a game. He does compete on the glass, and he can get things and create down the other end. So it's a different shade of that. But I think in the same way that we're saying how big men being able to dribble is a pro, I think guards being able to rebound works in the same effect, and Scoot is very effective at that.
Yeah, it's another reason why I'm a big fan of Anthony Black out of Arkansas. Just in terms of this grab and go stuff, like Anthony Black at 6'7" guard can grab the ball. I think he averaged close to, if not 5 or 6 rebounds this year. That's just becoming more and more of just an attractive option. Like, that's what the Mavs really do for Luka. It's like basically everyone box out, Luka, you go grab the rebound, and we're out. We're pushing the ball, starting the break, and we're starting to see that more and more. It goes back to kind of what we were talking about on the one episode when we were talking about NBA takeaways. Like, that traditional point guard it's a dying breed in the NBA these days, and it's more so. Let's do, less is more. If we can just get one guy to grab the rebound and start our break, that's what we're going to go with. That's what we're going to rock with. And like you're saying, Henderson able to do that, shows the ability to rebound. And I think he's got some good floor vision too. And even right there, just that's a simple and one in the third quarter. You see how into it in like a preseason exhibition game. You see how into it is. And you got to love that energy. And I think that's a very attractive thing as well. If this is going to be like your face of the franchise type guy.
Mm-hmm. And that was one of the biggest things that I was excited to watch for going into this year of does he take those strides forward as a playmaker? I watching it live and as the season unwinded, I didn't really get that feel, but honestly watching back some of the tape over the past couple days, it looks a lot better than I remembered it. And he is creating more than I gave him credit. 6.7 assists is solid. That's not going to lead the NBA by any means, but he does have that feel. He's got good pick and roll instincts, which honestly is essential in today's NBA and how often that is run and just basketball in general. So I do like that out of him. Good off-ball movement as well. That's another thing that has jumped out to me is he can be a little bit of that combo guard where he's willing to make cuts. He's willing to spot up. He's not just a zero off-ball, and we see that with guys who are incredibly ball dominant. James Harden, for example, is only locked in on a basketball court when he has the ball. That's not Scoot Henderson. He's still active. He still makes things happen. He still moves around even when he doesn't have it. And that's an incredibly important skill when you're able to create offense without the ball. I see that upside in him too. So a couple of swing skills that I did want to point out. The shooting is the number one. As you mentioned, 3-point percentage makes or break guys. And when you look deeper in this draft in the 20 to 30 range, I think you look at those guys, and if they're above average NBA 3-point shooters, they'll stick. And if they're not, they simply won't, pretty much regardless of the rest of their game. And it is a bummer. That's kind of how the NBA is going. But Scoot, I think if he can take that step and be an effective 3-point shooter, he can be a star. If he doesn't, his ceiling is just going to be limited. Shot 38.3% at the mid-range, 54 from 141 on those attempts. That's a little bit of a step back from last year. He shot 42.5% last year on the Ignite, but he did get up more attempts. I do still think he has that 3-level scoring potential. I think he honestly pulled up and did those kind of elbow shots a little too often this year. In general, I like a guy who's either looking to attack the basket or shoot a three and step back. That's kind of my mindset there. To me, the mid-range is the last resort, and sometimes you have to. You got to take what the defense gives you to some extent. But I think he opted to it a little too easily, and he just didn't shoot at a high enough rate for that to be a go-to shot for him. Also on floaters, there's not much of a floater game right now. Shot just 32 attempts, 48.6% that he connected on. Only attempted 7 in year one, so a little bit of a step forward as far as attempting them at least. And he was just 21.6% on 3-point attempts last year. That is a notable step forward into 33.8% this year. So if we can see those strides continue, he's got it. But I think those shootings those shooting splits are going to make or break what his ceiling is.
Yeah. Also, the lack of games. I think this year only played 18. I think that's I kind of relate it to the quarterback position. When you're looking to draft a guy that's only played 12 games at the quarterback spot, that's hard. I don't have that big of a sample size. Like you're saying, we did see some improvement, but only in 18 games. Is that sustainable over an entire 82 game season? And I also think it's going to be big with him if he does wind up going to Portland and Dame is traded. He's going to be, Simmons is or Simons, however you pronounce his last name. He's a really good player, but
Yeah.
is he like a number one guy? I think they would roll with Scoot. You're the guy. You're the face now. You have pressure to go out there and perform from day one. How like willing will they be to let him kind of mess around and develop that outside shot off the bounce, off the catch, all the entire different looks? Because he's going to, I think, have pressure to perform and be the guy on the Trailblazers from day one if Damian Lillard's traded out. And I think if he's not able to slowly and consistently work on that jump shot and improve things, that could eventually break the shot and limit his ceiling. So I know the Trailblazers won't be in any rush to compete next year, but I think that's a big thing to watch in terms of his development.
Yeah, and Shaden Sharp's another guy in that core that'll be interesting to develop. That'll be a nice little partner for him. Another guy, young, unproven. I do think Scoot's built for it to be that type of lead guard for a franchise. I think he will be able to rise to it. It's not going to happen overnight by any means. There will absolutely be growing pains. It's going to be very interesting to see what the Trailblazers do. I saw there was a Chris Haynes report saying that Dame basically, if they take Scoot at 3 or if they take anyone at 3, he pretty much wants out. That you can only take all these things with a grain of salt at this point in time and in this media world that we live in. So who knows what Dame's true outlook is? I mean, I think the best case for everyone, all parties involved, would have been for him to be traded several years ago. At this point, that hasn't happened, and we're still in mediocre land. And Dame, wanted to get it the hard way. We see those quotes all the time. But yeah, I mean, I think any franchise should be happy with Scoot. He's one of the more universal across players. Like, I do think there's a role on him, even if he's not a true lead guard. I think he's good enough off ball that he can be. The shooting is a concern there for sure. Defensively, there was a little bit of inconsistent effort this year, but I overlooked that on a lot of guys. And frankly, when he turned it on, it was good enough for me. The 6'9" wingspan's a big deal as far as guarding up and being one of the younger guys or smaller guys on the floor. So yeah, for me, he checks about like all the boxes that you're looking for in a modern guard. What would you say would be a successful career for Scoot Henderson?
Well, before I say that, I also just wanted to throw in, if he does go to the Blazers and it's him, Sharp, and Foray, that's a fun and very athletic group. Like, that would be a really exciting watch next year. It's another one where it's kind of hard because I don't know how legit he is. I think you see the tools. Like, I think us multiple time All-Star, like 5-6 time, consistently be like a 18 to 22 points per game type guy. I think that would be a pretty successful career for him as a number 2 pick. I think if you're a top 3 pick and you're not a multiple time All-Star and, consistently one of the best 25 to 30 players in the league, it's a disappointing career. You're drafted that high to be, the guy for a franchise. He's going to be an interesting spot, I think, because it all depends really on where he winds up going. It does sound like it more and more like it's going to be the Trailblazers, and will Lillard stay then? Will he be able to learn from him, develop with him until Lillard finds a new home? I think that's going to be something to watch, but I'd say 5-6 time All-Star, 20 point per game career scorer. I think that would be a pretty successful career. But with that Russell Westbrook complex we were talking about, if he's able to throw out those numbers and that resume, that's I think the Trailblazers would sign up for that 9 times or 10 times out of 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I definitely don't think he has as much pressure as Wembanyama on him, and frankly, I think like in a way that has helped Scoot that he's not under the microscope as much this season for sure. I still think that those are all pretty fair assessments. I think him cracking a couple All-Stars, being like a true lead guard, we're seeing more and more into, like, obviously no guy can do it alone, so I don't expect him to put up these ridiculous numbers. But if he's just a guy who can create his own shot regularly, serve as a playmaker, I want him to grow into the best version of a modern NBA guard, which is ever changing. Not a true point guard. He's got to be more of a scorer, as is kind of the case. But to me, I do think he can check all those boxes, and I think I'm higher on Scoot than the consensus at this point in time.
Give me like what Jamal Murray's been in his NBA career so far, and I think that would be a very successful career.
I like that a lot. I think that just about does it for Scoot. Do you have any other final thoughts on our concern for him?
No, it's just, I think it's going to come down to the shooting, as it really comes down to with most of these guys. But regardless, I think he does bring some NBA level ready stuff, and he's going to be a fun player to watch and fun player to track. Really like the energy he plays with, and like we were saying, that young 3-person backcourt of him, Sharp, and Foray, that would be a fun group to watch. And I think given some time, if there's not too much pressure on them, they could really evolve into one of the top trios in the league potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will dive into some more prospects as we move on. Happy to rip out Scoot Henderson too. I don't like the way that this guy is not getting the buzz that I think he deserves. So I'm happy to hop on and talk about him. Appreciate you guys for watching. Make sure to drop a like on this video, subscribe on the channel, drop a couple comments. Give me your player comps for Scoot Henderson. What do you think he turns into? Ryan already killing it with videos. Got Derek Lively, Tariq Whitehead already out. There will be a couple more on the way. So appreciate you guys and stay posted for more.